So very good evening to everyone. Today I will be taking how to read newspapers, especially for UPSC examination, right? So can I have certain kind of responses with respect to how many months have been that you've been reading newspaper, or years, or you've just started, so that I can, start the class with the frame of mind that you are, either totally novice, you don't know anything how to read newspaper for the exam, or if you have already been reading the newspaper, what kind of problems you're facing with respect to reading the newspapers for UPSC exam. So can I have the responses to make this class interactive? So I will be waiting for the responses as to how many days or months have been that you've been reading newspaper for the civil services examination. So before that, whenever you're reading newspaper, or precisely you are preparing for civil services, you need to keep in mind three essential parameters. The first is syllabus, the second is previous year questions, third is reading habit. Now you will be wondering, what is the difference between when you are sitting for an examination for UPSC and the examination so far in your life till now, whether it was school or college, etc. Now the kind of difference when it comes to, sitting for this examination merely lies that it requires a kind of personality which everyone does not have, or if one wants to clear this examination, they need to have these personality traits, right? Now again, so I am having responses. So Suresh is saying he's just started, Divyansh is saying 3 months, Sahil is saying just started, Ravi is saying 1 year, it's been 1 year. So you have in the class who've been reading newspaper for a while, and you have people here in the class who have just started reading newspaper, right? Good, fine. So what I'm trying to make you understand is, so if you've taken this plunge to sit for this exam, you need to have, besides these common things which you've already done for the, exams which you have sat in college or, precisely school, you have gone through the syllabus, you have previous year questions in hand when you sat for your college exams, you were reading, right? So the only difference when it comes to, clearing this exam is personality. We always, underemphasize the, importance of the syllabus. Now if I am asking you a question that how many have gone through syllabus or previous year questions, I will have responses as to, 70 to 80% must have gone through the syllabus and questions, right, when they had taken this plunge to sit for this exam. But there is one difference. The difference lies, so when you have sat for this exam or decided that you will be appearing for UPSC, you should also have a closer look at the kind of, requirements this exam has, right? So as I said, there are certain kind of personality traits or qualities which, UPSC itself has given it to you, right? Now what are they? So it says that the qualities that will be judged in the personality test. So I'm talking about the interview stage. So there are 3 stages. So once you clear your prelims, you sit for mains. If you clear your mains, you appear for the interview, right? Now again, you must be wondering why ma'am is telling you about the qualities which are required for the interview, right? So guys, let's be very honest about it. This examination is solely personality test. So when I'm saying this, I mean, till the time you don't understand, the qualities required, you will not be able to make use of the content which you will be reading for this examination for at least a year, right? So when I'm again saying that, what I mean is, that if you know the requirements, you will be able to better make use of the newspaper and the textbooks which you will be referring, or the websites you will be referring. Now, what are those qualities? So the qualities which UPSC has laid down in the interview test or the personality test are mental alertness. So I will be writing down those qualities. Mental alertness, critical powers of assimilation, clear and logical exposition, balanced judgment. Then it says variety and depth of interest. Then it says ability for social cohesion and leadership. Intellectual and moral integrity. Then it says that the interview test is not intended to be a test either of the specialized or general knowledge of the candidates, which has already been tested through their written papers, but the candidates are expected to have taken an intelligent interest not only in their special subjects of academic study, but also in the events which are happening around them, both within and outside their state or country, as well as modern currents of thought and new discoveries which should rouse the curiosity of a well-educated youth, right? That means besides these, you should have taken an intelligent interest in the happenings outside your state or country, or in the modern current of thought and new discoveries which should raise curiosity in a well-educated youth. Now, when we understand that this is what is required, starting from mental alertness to clear and logical exposition to balanced judgment to critical powers of assimilation to interest in variety and depth of knowledge, you should have an ability of social cohesion and leadership. You should have intellectual and moral integrity, right? You should have taken an intelligent interest in the happenings outside your state or country, right? You should have interest in the modern current thought, new discoveries, which should raise curiosity amongst you as a well-educated youth. So when we understand this, we need to apply these qualities whenever we are reading any content. Now this content, precisely what the agenda of today's class is, how we will be using all these things to understand the newspaper. Because if you're simply reading newspaper, it will not be different from your parents reading newspaper and you reading the newspaper. So the objective in mind should be amply clear that you should prepare yourself to become an aware citizen, right? Now, you need to present yourself, even in the interview board, as a well-educated and informed aspiring bureaucrat who have balance of judgment, sense of, responsibility and accountability, who knows about how things are going around him or her, right? You should have, a general idea of how technology is going around, in which direction, right? You should know how our agriculture is. You should know how our Indian economy is, what is Indian polity. So all these taken into account will make you a well-informed and educated youth, right? Now, starting from this, we will understand the syllabus, how previous year questions play a huge role in you understanding the newspaper, right? And, even the qualities which I have shared with you from the UPSC's official notification will help you now from today how to make use of content, right? So when I'm saying this again, can I have certain kind of issues or problems you face while reading newspapers, and especially targeted for those who've been reading newspapers? I have questions in my mind as to what I will be taking with respect to what problems you face with respect to newspaper reading. But I want to know it from you as to what kind of issues you face when you read newspaper, right? First thing is, maximum number of students face problem in note making from the newspaper, right? Second issue which they face is how to use the content in the newspaper, right? Now, this again can be divided into different areas. One is in which paper does it lie in paper 1, paper 2, paper 3 or paper 4? How to make use of content for essay specifically? How to make use of newspaper from ethics point of view, right? Then there are certain articles in the newspapers, in the editorials, so how to make notes and make use of the information given, right? If you go specifically subject-wise, economy is difficult to understand in the beginning when you read newspaper. S&T, that is science and technology. International relations or IR makes many aspirants confused because they are not able to track things, because they need to know the background of the news so that they are able to better analyze how the relations have passed and they will be going in which direction. So broadly, these are the issues which usually aspirants face when they are reading the newspaper. Specifically, okay, how to make notes and is it necessary? Okay, I'm unable to discover the relevant information from science and tech page. Okay, fine. So I think broadly the issues remain this, right? S&T, IR, economy, subject wise. Then how to make use of content and make notes, and is it necessary to make notes? Now this is the most important question which I will be answering after we've discussed the syllabus and have seen few questions. So today how the plan will be: first I will be making you aware of how the syllabus looks like. Despite of you saying that you know the syllabus, I will be making you understand the syllabus and making use of syllabus from the newspaper, right? Secondly, I will be also enlightening you with respect to how questions come in mains and prelims, right? Thirdly, I will be discussing yesterday's newspaper in length, ranging from first page till the last, as to how you should have used the newspaper or read the newspaper. Fourthly, I will be specifically dealing with how to make notes, how to make use of monthly current affairs, which Vision provides you, how to make use of other resources apart from monthly, daily, like for example, PT 365 or Mains 365 in your preparation, right? Now, all this looks like as if, it's very huge and how you will be able to understand. But rest assured, go step by step as to what I will be talking about. And if at all you have any problems still in understanding how you will be making use of newspaper and the information given, we can have specific queries at the end of the class. So there is a question, Divyansh is saying, ma'am, it's difficult to make judgment on issues, especially like farm laws. I will be talking about how to make use of, opinions which you read in the newspaper, right? And how to have that balanced judgment, because this is one of the quality which you need to have, balanced judgment in you when you are reading newspaper or writing answers or when you will be facing the interview board, right? So let's start, step by step. So first thing which you should know is what the prelim syllabus looks like. What does it contain, right? And why, it is still important to read newspaper. First of all, I would like to make myself very clear that newspaper reading is must. You should not ask a second question after this, that if I am following current affairs magazine, if I am reading, websites, short notes or newspaper, do I still require to read newspaper? The answer is yes. Newspaper reading should be a habit. This should become a part of your personality because there are no shortcuts to remain uninformed or, to remain informed, right? Why I'm saying so? Because when you read newspapers, you understand the issues from a very different perspective, from your own, thoughts, right? If I am giving you a summary of an issue, it will be different from what you have understood or probably, from the content given in the editorial. So your understanding of the content also differs when you read the same textbook. I'm sure if you are in a group of 10 reading the same content, the result will be not the same if I'm asking you the question. Similar way, if you are reading yourself newspaper, the result will be different from what you will be reading from a summarized note form, right? So that's why newspaper reading should be a habit. How many newspapers, we will dwell into that question later on, but newspaper are to be read, right? So coming to the syllabus, so this is how your prelim syllabus looks like. And the first bullet in the prelim syllabus says current events of national and international importance, right? So again, you need to understand that if UPSC is giving you a syllabus and in the first point, it is saying current events of national and international importance, it all the more highlights the importance of being aware from the news going around, right? So that means again here in prelims, newspaper is important, right? Second, it says history of India and Indian national movement. So history of India contains your ancient, medieval, culture as well as modern. But within modern, there is a phase called Indian national movement, right? That means if UPSC again is giving you a phase from a separate, part of history, that means it is giving more importance to that phase, and this phase while you will be preparing for UPSC cannot be ignored, right? Third thing, it says Indian and world geography, physical, social, economic, geography of India and the world. Guys, it is again very, very important to understand. You might be, listening to toppers talk. You might be, having conversation with already selected candidates. They will be having their own perception to clear this exam. Everyone has a different story and different take on this examination. But if you're just starting, you need to understand the importance of each and every, aspect given in the syllabus. So there are, certain kinds of beliefs that economic geography does not come in prelims, so you might skip that portion. Or social geography does not come, demography does not come, so you might skip that portion. If in the very beginning you will be doing selective study for different stages, you will not be able to understand the whole dynamics of how geography is or how history is. Reason being, in the interview as well as in the mains, the kind of questions which are posed to you are interdisciplinary. So when I'm saying the questions are interdisciplinary, what I mean is that if you understand geography, economic geography better, you will be able to understand international relations and mains better. Because again, the strategic and geographical interest or importance of a nation changes or shifts the whole dynamics of how international affairs are to be seen. Right? So each and every aspect given in the syllabus has a connection with other stage apart from prelims, that is mains and interview. So don't be selective in your approach when you are seeing the topics for prelims and mains, right? Because they both are connected, right? Then it says Indian polity and governance. Then it has given certain keywords like constitution, rights issue, political system, panchayati raj, right? Then it says economic and social development, sustainable development, poverty, inclusion, demographic, social sector initiatives, right? Then it says general issues on environment and ecology, biodiversity and climate change that do not require subject specialization. Then it says general science, right? Now again there is a question in mind that do we have to do physics also, chemistry also, biology also. Again there are perceptions to this subject again by the ones who have cleared this exam, that they don't ask question on physics, they don't ask question on chemistry. I agree, they don't ask really, but at least a 10th level standard physics or chemistry or biology up till 12th standard is expected, because again you have to understand that if you are becoming a civil servant, he needs to be a generalist, right? To be a generalist, you should have a broad understanding of diverse areas, right? So for example, again, if you don't know chemistry, you will not understand food adulteration, right? Food chemistry. So if you're posted somewhere where this adulteration is going on, so you should know. So if you're posted again in a district where, maximum impact on agriculture is because of climate change, or if you want to make people aware of climate change, you should know about the concept of climate change, and what steps further you can take to make them aware will only come when you understand the whole concept. So the whole idea is make yourself aware of the concepts and then see how things go around when it comes to, UPSC asking question, right? Similarly, you have in mains paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4. Paper 1 is your history, geography, society, right? Paper 2 consists of subjects like polity, governance, IR, right? Paper 3 consists of subjects like economy, disaster management, ecology, science and tech. Paper 4 constitutes your ethics paper. Then you have an essay paper, right? So paper 1 has, history, geography, society. So when we talk of history, society, geography, you need to understand that although the papers, constituents or subjects look like that they are very static, but the kind of questions again UPSC asks in paper 1, First, they are very relevant to what is happening in today's world, from the aspects of geography, from the aspects of society, right? Second, again, the kind of questions asked by UPSC from this portion is, interdisciplinary. I'm again assuming that people have seen this year's paper of means. If not, again, this thing is, uh, you know, will be catered to in this class today, because I don't leave anything on you, assuming that you might see it in future, because I know how mostly, aspirants think. So when we are saying paper 1, let's take an example, right? So let's take an example of geography. Let's have a closer look at the kind of topics which are given in geography. So geography says salient features of world's physical geography, distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and the Indian subcontinent, factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary and tertiary sector industries in various parts of the world, including India. Then it says important geophysical phenomena such as earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, etc. Then it says geographical features and their location, changes in critical geographical features including water bodies and ice caps, and in flora and fauna and the effects of such changes. So when we see the syllabus, it all seems very theoretical, right? Just have a look at the kind of questions this year UPSC has asked in mains. So when it comes to geography, question number 4, discuss the geophysical characteristic of circum-Pacific zone. 5th question, the process of desertification does not have climatic boundaries. Justify with examples. 6th question, how will the melting of Himalayan glaciers have a far-reaching impact on the water resources of India? Right? So if you see, for example, 6th question, how will be the melting of Himalayan glaciers have a far-reaching effect or impact on the water resources of India? Again, this question is directly from the syllabus, effect of climate change. Even, issues of desertification. So the question is saying the process of desertification does not have climatic boundaries, right? Again, this is one of the impact of climate change, right? Then 7th question says, account for the present location of iron and steel industries away from the source of raw material by giving example. Again, directly from the syllabus, location of industries. So if you closely look at the questions, by and large, they come from topics which are listed in the syllabus. So have that kind of confidence in the examination that more or less the questions come from the syllabus, right? Again, how newspapers are to be used for geography. So again, these are few questions compilation of geography, right? So that, it is better for you to understand how to make use of newspaper. So when a natural calamity takes place, let's take an example of earthquake or landslide or tropical cyclone. You will be, going through the newspapers, right? So what you have to do is, so because we are starting how to, understand questions, I will also be dealing with how to make notes also in between, right? So when it comes to how to make use of questions already asked and the syllabus, let's have a look at the questions given. So one is on landslides. Himalayas are highly prone to landslides. Discuss the causes and suggest suitable measures of mitigation. So sometimes the suitable measures of mitigation are given in the editorial, right? You really can't, have content on the textbooks solely for certain topics. So for example, this question is also asked in UPSC. Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata are the 3 mega cities of the country, but the problem of air pollution is more severe in Delhi as compared to the other two. Why is this so? So you all know that every time, every year, there are certain months, right, where the problem of air pollution is very dense or severe in Delhi, right? So why is that? There are questions on these topics also, right? Similarly, when you are seeing tropical cyclones or any example of tropical cyclone, uh, whether it had come in India or parts of India or probably in the world, you should try and note down that topic from the examination point of view. There is another way of using UPSC question. So let's take an example. So this question says, tropical cyclones are largely confined to South China Sea, Bay of Bengal and Gulf of Mexico. Why? Right? So when you are reading the questions, you also need to understand that there can be a question, further question on this very topic from Indian perspective also. So certain kinds of questions given by UPSC are informative, right? So don't only see questions from questions point of view, also see questions from content or information point of view. There can be a question in some year where they are telling you or asking you why tropical cyclones are more frequent in Bay of Bengal and not in Arabian Sea. Right? So this understanding of how to make use of questions should also be, thought into when you are looking at the papers, right? Then you have society questions. So there are two type of, society questions. So one type is sometimes questions are informative, sometimes questions are trend based, sometimes questions are essay based. Let's understand how trend-based questions look like and essay-based questions look like. So trend-based questions are like these, where definite trend is asked. So first question says, how do you explain the statistics that show that the sex ratio in tribes in India is more favorable to women than the sex ratio among the scheduled castes, right? So that means, again, if you know a certain kind of statistic or trend, then only you will be able to secure good marks in this particular question. However, the question is on explaining these statistics, but if you are able to give the statistic in the introduction, the examiner will understand that you will be, explaining the statistics in the next paragraph more logically. Second question says, discuss the changes in the trends of labor migration within and outside India in the last 4 decades, right? So that means within the trend, there is, it's not as if you are only expected to know the trend of last 5 years only. It can be 10 years, it can be 20 years, it can be 40 years. However, it all depends on the topic, right? You can't really have a holistic understanding of trend of all topics, but it all depends on which topic, it is important. Third question says, why do some of the prosperous regions of India have an adverse sex ratio for women? Give your arguments. Why this question I have put here? Because on the face of it, it does not ask you a statistic, right? But when you are going to answer this question, there are certain keywords. One is most prosperous regions of India. So you should know which are the most prosperous regions of India and how you are going to come to that judgment when you know the GDP of it or economic growth of it. Second keyword is adverse sex ratio. So you need to know, so for example, so most prosperous regions being here in this question, Punjab and Haryana, and the question is saying that despite of they being prosperous, the sex ratio is adverse, low. Why is this so? So again, to secure good marks, you need to substantiate on the statistic. So there is informative based question, there is trend based question. Let's have a look at the essay based questions. I'm giving you an example of society questions here. So just see the question. Empowering women is the key to control population growth. This can be both in an essay form as well as they have asked this question in 10 mark, right? So when you are preparing for this examination, understand that there are two variables. One is objective and subjective understanding, right? So when we are saying subjective understanding, you are limited to 150, 250 words, and in the interview, you don't know how much time you will be asked a particular type of question on a very topic, right? So definite standard in mains is 150 to 250 words content you should have in any topic. In objective, for prelims, you should have important content or information. Here, you know, elimination also plays a key role. So when you're reading newspaper or any textbook, you need to know and understand that whether this topic can be asked in objective or subjective or both. Accordingly, you go into the depth and understand that very topic, right? So when I'm saying empowering women is the key to control population growth, so when it is asked in mains as a 10 marker or a 12 marker or a 15 marker, you have limited space and time. You will be able to justify this, whether empowering women is the key to control population growth, by giving either examples, initiatives, right, or viewpoints or perspectives, right? Similarly, you know, this question, what makes the Indian society unique in sustaining its culture? Here again, examples play a major role in gaining marks, right? Let's understand paper 2. So paper 2 has your polity, paper 2 has IR, paper 2 has governance, right? So let's see a few questions of this year. So let's take this question. So there are questions on judicial systems in India and UK. So there is a comparison based question. There is a question on once a speaker, always a speaker. So let's closely look at this question. So the question says, once a speaker, always a speaker, do you think that this practice should be adopted to impart objectivity to the office of the Speaker of Lok Sabha? What could be its implications for the robust functioning of parliamentary business in India, right? Now this is a, opinion. Once a speaker, always a speaker, right? Now this is a very interpretative statement. First of all, you should know that this has been asked from which area. So there is a topic in your syllabus, appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. So powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional posts and bodies also has speaker, right? So that means when you are going through, election commission or election commissioner or speaker or governor, right? You should, understand its roles and responsibilities, powers, function, jurisdiction from two points of view: constitutional, legal, and conventional based, right? So there was this question, how to arrive at a balanced judgment, right? Now, till the time you don't know the constitutional position, legal position, that means what is given in the laws, you cannot have a balanced judgment. One of the qualities in a civil servant is objectivity. What do you mean by objectivity? That means what you are able to observe or see, right? What is happening in reality. But to arrive at a balanced judgment, there are subjective opinions. I may be having a different viewpoint on Farm Bill because I am a farmer. You will have a different viewpoint on Farm Bill because you're a part of government. C person can have a different viewpoint because he's, judiciary. So there are different stakeholders in India as well as around the world on every issue, right? So till the time you are not seeing any issue objectively, you will not be able to accommodate the viewpoints and the right thing in the right spirit, right? So that means, first of all, I'm just giving you an example because there was this question on Farm Bill. So recently, just 2 days ago, one day ago, Supreme Court has said something on Farm Bill, right? What is it? So it has stayed the, implementation on Farm Bill. That means no Farm Bill till recommendations of the committee which has been constituted by Supreme Court comes up with, the farm laws cannot be implemented, right? That means you need to understand within this issue that whether Supreme Court has a power to mediate between the government and other stakeholders or not. Because if you understand Supreme Court or judiciary, they are basically to see the constitutionality of laws, whether the laws made are constitutional or not, right? So there is a topic again within your syllabus, judicial activism, right? So when you will be going through the classes, you will be, getting aware of these things. But right now, I'm assuming again that you don't have any idea, take very small steps every day. Right? Don't try to do everything on your own on the very first day. You will take days to understand and build knowledge. Right now is the time to understand the topics first and then come to judgment about it. Till the time you are not aware of different aspects, how can you, be sure that whatever answer you will be saying or writing will be correct? So don't over expect anything out of you. Try to understand things from a very evolutionary perspective, right? Don't again think that you are a superman or a superwoman who will be able to do things on their own. Build things gradually. That is what my take will be on this thing, right? So as I'm saying, you need to understand that there are dynamics within this examination. One is objective and the other one is subjective, right? To understand whether that topic can be asked from objective point of view or subjective point of view, you need to understand the topic, right? So you have to focus your energies from the newspaper or otherwise in your class or any textbook which you will be referring to understand the relevance of that very topic. To understand the relevance of the topic, you need to understand the syllabus and keep on looking at the papers on regular basis, right? Similarly, if you are, thinking that what is, how IR questions are asked. So again, this is just recently held paper of mains. So let's have a look at the 20th question. What is the significance of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russia defense deals? Discuss with reference to the stability in the Indo-Pacific region. This is a very good question, right? Over the years, there has been this, debate and otherwise also when the balance of power shifts or, India is at a very pivot place, middle place. Whenever US is, losing its bargaining power, it takes the hand of India and then, it lures it that I will give you this weapon, etc. right? But it changes the whole dynamics in, the South Asia belt and other regions belt, right? So we have two major defense importer country. One is US and Russia, right? How when we are dwelling into or taking, defense or signing defense deals with US threatens Russia, and when we do more with Russia, how it threatens US. And then the question is asking, discuss with reference to the stability in the Indo-Pacific region. So that means this Indo-Pacific region, what is the importance of Indo-Pacific region? To India in today's time. That means when you are doing international relations, there are certain areas which are important for India's relations with the world and it becoming a major global power. One being Indo-Pacific, the other one being South Asia, then Middle East, right? So these are key important areas or geographical, regions which play a huge role in India's relations with the world, right? So that is how, when you look at the question, you understand, okay, whatever this editorial is talking about, this is how I have to look, because there has been a question on Indo-Pacific strategic, importance to India, etc. Right? So that's why, every time we emphasize that on regular basis, you have to see papers, right? Because this lets you know and understand how you need to, read the newspaper and use the further content, right? Similarly, you have, questions from paper 3, paper 4. Let's take an example of, paper 3. So this time, they have asked, so this agriculture has suddenly gained importance in the newspaper, right? So let's see how questions have been asked from, probably COVID or agriculture. So there was this question this year. What are the main constraints in transport and marketing of agricultural produce in India? There was a question again on these lines. What are the challenges and opportunities of food processing sector in the country? How can the income of farmers be substantially increased by encouraging food processing, right? You must be wondering from agriculture why I'm also discussing food processing. There was a question this year on COVID also. Explain the rationale behind the Goods and Services Tax Act of 2017. How has COVID-19 impacted the GST compensation fund and created new federal tensions, right? So when you think of federal tensions, you think of paper 2, because there you have topic called center-state relations, executive, legislative and financial, right? So when you are doing paper 2, how it is also linked with paper 3, this very topic is what you have to integrate. So when you're doing GST, you will be doing it from constitutional point of view, law point of view, and how it is being implemented in the economy in paper 3, right? So that is why this whole approach needs to be interdisciplinary. Again, there is a question on COVID. COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented devastation worldwide. However, technological advancements are being availed readily to win over the crisis, given account on how technology was sought to aid management of the pandemic, right? So when you are reading COVID or information about COVID, you must be going into very finer details, right? But always make sure that you are also understanding how UPSC has seen, COVID from mains point of view, right? One, they had asked on GST's implementation and its, effect on the federal tensions because of GST compensation has hampered because of COVID-19. Then it has asked about the role of technology in managing the COVID impact, right? So that is how broadly you need to see. Now, if you're talking about this question that how has technology come into picture to aid management of COVID, how much maximum you can write? 2 pages, right? That too, you need not go into the finer details of the technology, but areas in which technology has come into play, right? You just need to prepare and give more examples, right? So that is how you will be making your notes from the newspaper, keeping in mind that for what purpose you are going to use that information, right? Similarly, you have, paper 4. Okay, one example I will be giving of science and technology. So you all know that, data security, communication technology, specifically 5G is what we will be now adopting to. So last year in prelims, they had asked a question on LTE and VoLTE. LTE is long-term evolution, VoLTE is voice over long-term evolution. Both these technologies are used in your mobile phones, right? So this is how your prelims question looks like. So they have asked the difference between LTE and VoLTE. So the technologies which you are using day-to-day basis, like your mobile phones or smartwatch or, NFC near field communication or ATM or debit cards, right? They are dwelling into those aspects. So again, how you will be able to understand these things when you are closely looking at the questions and the kind of topics UPSC picks up, right? Again, I'm emphasizing that the kind of topics which UPSC picks up are very relevant, and you will understand it when you understand the first beginning of from where we started, the kind of qualities, right? If you are mindful, if you're aware of how things are happening around you, you will be able to tackle questions both from prelims and mains point of view, right? So giving an example of very quickly on ethics. So there is a topic in ethics called attitude. Attitude, content, structure, function, its influence in relation with thought and behavior, moral and political attitude, social influence and persuasion. So you all know what is attitude. It's an English word. So can I have answers or responses? What do you think is an attitude? And then we will begin. So I'm here trying to make you understand how you need to read ethics from the newspaper. What do you think is attitude? Because there is a purpose why there are topics being given in ethics, science and tech, polity, geography, society, right? What do you think is attitude? It's a simple plain word, English word. What do you think is attitude? Can I have answers? What do you think is attitude? So Parul is saying attitude is behavior. Okay. If attitude would have been behavior, then under attitude behavior would not have been written, right? Vidhi is saying the way we look at things is our attitude. Okay, good. The way we look at things is our attitude, right? Which is shaped by behavior and social conditioning. Ramya is saying general response and assessment of daily occurrences. Assessment. See, in mains and interview, the most important role or, indicator of your personality is the choice of words. So in ethics, so Abhinav is saying response to something is attitude. Okay. So in ethics, why I'm doing this exercise with you? Because I want to make you understand that specifically in ethics, be very mindful of what you say. Attitude is, Aman is saying attitude is how you perceive everything and respond. Okay. So in ethics, the most important thing is how you define and understand the very word or concept. Because till the time you don't understand it technically, you will not be able to apply that value in the questions subsequently which will be asked by UPSC. Right? So to understand what kind of questions come, there are two sections, section A and B. Section A majorly deals with the concepts and their, relevance in today's context. Section B is mostly your case studies, etc. So you need to know how the questions come. So when I'm saying attitude, it's not as if you are unaware of what is attitude, but you have different kinds of definitions to attitude. That is where the problem lies, right? So first of all, when you're preparing for ethics, newspapers help you a lot. Reason being, it gives you the content or understanding from a different point of view. And what is that point of view? So sometimes you might get an editorial or a news item on any disaster which has happened. So in the news, you will get some pointers as to how that disaster was responded by the authorities, right? So when you come across those things, you need to understand them or take down notes on, right? Secondly, newspapers help you in ethics with respect to the sayings or relevance of important philosophers or personalities. So you get dedicated articles on certain philosophies or, learnings from the teachings of certain important personalities. There again, you can take down notes from ethics point of view, right? So there are, certain ways in which you make use of newspaper. But when you talk of ethics, always see a concept or a definition or a value from different perspective. One is what you see as attitude, an individual perspective. Then that individual is always a part of a family, right? So you might heard, your friends saying, "Nahi, your family is more progressive, my family is conservative." That is attitude. Your family's attitude is progressive, my family's attitude is conservative. You as an individual, part of family, that family is part of society. Indian society's attitude is different from Western society. That society is part of a polity or a state which contains actors like politicians, bureaucrat. So what should be the attitude of bureaucrat, right, in India? So this is nothing what you are seeing from a perspective of how things are happening around you. So when you're doing ethics or reading newspaper, always be mindful of these aspects. What implication will it have on individual? What implication it will have on elderly, women, children? There was a case study where, it was given that there is an officer or a person who has to save life of an elderly. So he has certain options: elderly, women, children, infant, right? Whom would he save first? So like this, you will be given situations where you have to take decisions. That decision should come out of logical exposition. That again was a quality mentioned by UPSC, right? So everything needs to be logical and methodological, with a method, because that is how you will be able to come up with balanced judgment, right? So let's see a question. There was this question this year. On attitude, if I'm not wrong. So there was this question: what teachings of Buddha are most relevant today and why? So you can get questions on personalities or philosophers and their relevance in today's time. So probably Buddha's teaching you will be reading in ancient India, right? From prelims point of view. But how you will be making use of that prelims knowledge in mains, that is what this question is all about, right? So don't have this notion that I will be reading ancient India from prelims perspective, because it will not be asked in mains, or even if it is asked in mains, it will be asked in paper 1. No, they have asked this question in paper 4. So if you understand Buddha's teaching, you have to discuss its relevance in today's time and why it is important, right? So anything which you are reading for this exam needs to be well thought and planned to how to make use of it, right? So there was this question this year given by UPSC. A positive attitude is considered to be an essential characteristic of a civil servant who is often required to function under extreme stress, right? What contributes to a positive attitude in a person, right? So it is a 10 marker where the question is asking you what comes into play to build a positive attitude in a person, right? Probably his upbringing, his, friend circle, his learnings, his school, his, impact on things around him, right? So this is a very generic question. So that is how you need to understand that how questions come in UPSC and how you are going to make use of newspaper to, better understand the paper as well as secure good marks. Now coming to the main question, how many newspapers? For such dynamic questions asked by UPSC in mains, interview and prelims. Because you are just beginning, even if you do one newspaper, that is more than sufficient. But when I'm saying one newspaper, it should be one newspaper completely, right? It should not be that one day you read newspaper, second day you do not, right? So one newspaper on a daily basis needs to be read. Now with respect to choice of newspaper, yes, I agree that there are different variety of subjects asked by UPSC. A newspaper is specialized in a subject, B newspaper is specialized in C subject. So in that case, you are not expected to do specialized newspapers for different subjects. You need to do that very newspaper which you are comfortable in. So if we are taking example of most widely read newspapers, so there are two newspapers, The Hindu and Indian Express, right? So if someone is comfortable in The Hindu, the language of it, and they are able to comprehend the content, they can go with Hindu. If someone is not able to understand the kind of writings or words or the kind of language used in the Hindu, they can read Indian Express. Now there is a question in aspirants' mind that probably you might be seeing analysis and probably you have toppers who say that mostly questions come from the Hindu, so you should read the Hindu, right? So there are toppers who would say, even if I did not do Hindu, I could clear this paper because I understood the paper, newspaper, the topics. So firstly, you need to understand newspapers are recommended to you because they expose you with the news, right? Newspapers are not written from UPSC's perspective. Please be very clear on that, right? So that means you need to cover the issue or the topic and not necessarily the newspaper. So when we say that, that means questions might be coming from a newspaper, which may look like that they've come from a newspaper, but that very topic is very important, right? Yes, there can be few instances where one or two questions directly come from the newspaper, but you really can't target those questions. What I'm trying to make you understand here is that understand that you need to cover the topics and not the newspaper, right? In the very first place. Secondly, how to read newspapers then. So this is the major thing which we need to, understand. So there are certain do's and don'ts which should be kept in mind when you are doing newspaper. So what should be the focus areas? Editorial or op-ed page. Why we always emphasize that op-ed or editorial page are to be considered the most important? Because here what is given to you is analysis. Here, what is given to you are perspectives from different stakeholders, right? Judgments, opinions, which you will be using in mains or interview, right? I'm not dwelling into the fact right now whether that judgment or opinion is right or not. What I'm trying to make you understand is why it is emphasized to give more time on editorials than on regular news item. Second thing, what you should focus is any Supreme Court verdict on national and social issues. So for example, recently Supreme Court has come up with its opinion on farm laws or bills, right? They also give opinion on social, customs like entry of women in temples, etc. So what you need to make notes on in is the rationale or basis of Supreme Court judgments. That means, in simple words, the grounds on which the judgment has come, what is given by UPSC, right? So that means when you're going through the judgments, you need not go through 250 pages or 300. You need to understand the essence or the keywords, why they have given this judgment and on what basis. That will again help you in mains to come up or arrive at the balanced judgment or in the interview, right? Third thing is issues which are disturbing the nation or international relations, right? The fourth thing is parliamentary debate. So if sessions happen, what are the critical areas on which discussions or debates happen? That also become an important topic for you to have a question from interview or in mains or prelims. Next thing, government policies, obviously, right? Because if you are not aware of what government policies are, whether it is pertaining to farm laws, whether it's pertaining to probably, bird culling, right? Or probably international affairs, again, you will not be considered fit for this exam because you need to be aware of different, areas. What you can avoid reading in the newspaper: local news, political news, masala items. Now this distinction is not that very strict, because if I give you an example of, let's say, Sushant Singh Rajput case, although it is considered to be a masala items or a Bollywood news, but the kind of agencies involved again are very important from UPSC's point of view. For example, ED, Enforcement Directorate, CBI. Right? Similarly, local news, sometimes you need to read also from the interview perspective, because obviously they will be asking you how your district or region or state is facing issues on, right? Or any new developments which they have undertaken on different subjects. So likewise, you need to be very mindful as to what and at what time you are reading that news item, right? But the most important thing is you have to read the newspaper, right? So along with now what we will be doing, I will be reading the newspaper and will be telling you how to make notes, right? ये गीला करवा कर दे दो ये. So when we know that there are different types of questions asked and there are different requirements of this paper, we need to understand that how we are going to make notes. And we also need to understand that there are already available content through which, you can improve your knowledge. For example, textbooks or, magazines, etc. गीला कर दे, इसको कर दो. Right? So the first page is usually आप बता दो भैया क्या करना है. So the first page is usually meant for quick reading, right? Because here you don't get the analysis, you don't really get the content, but nonetheless you have to read certain important news items, because usually this is perceived first page to be a kind of an eye opener to what is happening around you, right? Second to 6 page or probably 7-8 pages are mostly your regional news, which vary from city to city. 7 to 8 pages are usually, 7th or 8th page is usually on national news. Here, you really get good topics to prepare for both interview, mains, as well as, prelims, right? Then your editorial page, as mentioned, is very, very important. Then usually pages ranging from 12 to 13 are news in general, happening around you in, again, nation or world. Then page 14 is core world news. Then you have 15 to 16 page usually economy, business. Here you mostly have to focus on the fiscal and monetary policy of the government. So monetary policies of RBI, fiscal policies of government, what steps have been taken or are being taken is what you have to see to boost the growth or economy. Now coming to the most important critical aspect, whether to make notes or not. Again, this depends on the time of preparation you are in or stage of preparation you are in. Given the fact that you've not sat for prelims or mains or ever given interview, note making can be very confusing at this point of view. The reason being, you don't have the experience as well as adequate knowledge to make notes. When again I'm saying that, what I mean is that there is a purpose to make notes. The first purpose being, as you already had experience of making notes in school or college, that it helps you in revising, right? But my dear friends, tell me, whenever you have made notes, you made notes only when you have the exact knowledge of it, right? Because you are not aware of how questions are being asked. You don't know the interconnections of different subjects or topics in the papers. You don't know in how many ways that particular topic can be asked, whether it can be asked in prelims or mains or interview. You really can't make notes from the newspaper or books in the very first go. And why again I'm saying that? Because if you start making notes, you will be wasting your time. So when I'm saying note making, what other marks you can do right now is that when you're reading newspaper, you can just jot down topics. I will be giving you example when I will be reading newspaper of yesterday with you to help you understand how to make notes right now, right? Now coming to the newspaper, let's read the paper together, right? So that is what the front page looks like. Supreme Court says implementation of 3 controversial farm laws. I may be underestimating few, but I know when people start preparing for UPSC, when they start reading the newspaper, they are not accustomed to even, basic legal terms or, words which are used often in UPSC vocabulary or, normal vocabulary. So many of you don't know what is the meaning of putting a stay also, right? I may be over exaggerating, but then yes, there are candidates who don't know the meaning of the words. So if they don't know, they need to understand and read the news item very clearly. So if you are just reading very quickly this news item, you then understand that this news is saying that as of now, center cannot implement the farm laws, right? Because the Supreme Court had stayed the implementation. Now you're not going to make notes of this news, right? Anything which is ongoing development, which has not come to a decision, it will, change its character any day. So try to avoid making notes of ongoing developments. Yes, certainly. What you can note down in the paper by paper notebook which you will be making. So what I'm suggesting is, for every paper, either you make a separate notebook or you have loose sheets, right, having an index as your syllabus of each paper, and then accordingly note down the topics. So what you have to do is noting down the topics. So for example, in paper 3, that is economy, you put farm laws. Within farm laws, there are different bills, for example, contract farming. You have mention of APMC. So whenever you come across any words, just write down those words. Because when the classes will be going on, you will be able to get familiar with these topics or issues at length, right? So the broader topic is agriculture. Within agriculture, you are just noting down these topics which you are getting exposed to, right? So there is no need to make notes on a 4-member committee has been set up by Supreme Court which will give its recommendations, and then you will have again an article or an opinion or an editorial that all these 4 experts who've been nominated for that committee were those who have supported the farm bill, so how can they give and arrive at a balanced judgment? So like that, you just keep things in your mind, no need to write it down, right? Then there was this news, no option to select between 2 vaccines. Again, no need to write down this, just keep it in your mind that if a time will come for you to, God forbid that time does not come, for you to have a vaccine, you don't have an option whether you will be going for co-vaccine or Covishield, right? Then there are, yes, so this news, you might feel that why ma'am has colored this. Because this news will help you in doing case studies. Why? See, understand that if any major thing is happening which requires preparation, identification by the government at huge number, you need to understand how things, behave or start. So if there are, vaccination sites being identified by any state government, how the procedure is. Again, you can make notes or keep it in your mind, it's up to you. But I suggest that understand how this needs to be done, because ultimately you will be doing that. When you get selected, if you're posted and tell you're any, major important city where such things happen, you need to prepare in a very methodical manner. So as you read this information, you come across that first there is a list of vaccination sites being identified, right? Then those vaccination sites can be hospitals, dispensaries, schools, etc. Then, these how, at what time and at which frequency this will be done, because normal routine activities are also happening in hospitals, dispensaries or schools. So will it be, given, or this vaccination exercise will be undergoing whole week, or there will be, days earmarked for it, right? So then it says that it is observed in dispensaries, it will only take place for 4 days a week. Why that is so? Because usual normal business also happens in dispensaries, normal vaccination also, right? Then a cold chain point is also, identified, because there needs to be the whole, vaccines need to be stored, right? Then there are vaccination booth. Then there is a vaccination site. Whenever this vaccination site will be earmarked, it will have a waiting room, it will have a vaccination room, and it will have an observation room, right? So like this, when you're going through this news, you can, keep things in your mind that how this vaccination drive is happening. Because again, you can expect a case study, if not this year, next year, right? Next to next year, from the very topic of vaccination drive. So you should know how things actually happen in case of emergency like this, right? So again, that is why I always say that newspaper reading is important, because you might not get summary of this. You might not get this piece of information in any magazine or a online website. This will only come out of experience when you've gone through different kinds of questions asked by UPSC, that there can be a case study or a question, or probably in the interview they can ask you that if you're a DM of Delhi or any district and there is this vaccination drive going on, what are the checkpoints which you will ensure that it would have, right? So these are those checkpoints. Vaccination site, how this vaccination site will be decided, how many days this vaccination drive will be going on, right? So all these things again play an important role when you read newspapers from your own perspective. Some might have read the newspaper of yesterday and they might not have noticed this thing from this perspective as what I'm telling you, right? So that is why newspaper reading is a must. Then your second page does not have much of information, but yes, when you're reading the newspapers initially, you must notice certain, keywords or key organizations, especially national level organizations or bodies, because in prelims, these bodies questions or national level organization question comes. In mains, you can be given a question on the issues on these very topics, but in prelims, the functions or the roles of these bodies are asked. So in yesterday's newspaper, in this article of Delhi's air quality may worsen today, there is mention of Central Pollution Control Board, Air Quality Index. Then there is mention of monitoring agency system of air quality and weather forecasting and research suffer. So when you're reading newspaper, don't turn blind eye while reading. That okay, I have done this duty of reading the newspaper. Be very mindful. So you might not be knowing about CPCB. You might not be knowing about air quality index. You might also not be knowing about suffer. So how can you say that you finished or covered the newspaper? Now again, what you can do is, here you can, do a bit of Google. Make use of Google and know the very, at least main function of CPCB or air quality index or suffer. So that, later on it will help you. So there was this question in 2018 prelims on CPCB. And they had given this question, how is the National Green Tribunal different from the Central Pollution Control Board? So you really don't, go to every ministry's website and do its functions. So that is why when you read newspapers, you can note down CPCB. You can note down CPCB in paper 2 with respect to Pollution Control Board organization, or you can, note down CPCB in paper 3. In pollution, topic from environment. You can note down suffer. You can note down air quality index. So at least when you will be doing pollution or climate change in your, classes, there if you come across these bodies from governance point of view, you can then cover there. And if at all, if they have been missed and you see these very questions in your test series in prelims, you can cover these topics by understanding, okay, there is a relevance of these bodies, right? So what you again have to do, you need not write down the functions. You can just go through them, right, from website. So for example, if you Google CPCB, you reach the official website. Whenever you visit the official website, there are two things which you have to notice: about us, functions, organizational structure, and if there is any FAQ in the right hand side column, frequently asked questions. So if you find out any FAQ mentioned tab, you need to click there and just see what are the questions which have been given in the website. So at least know what is the function of Central Pollution Control Board. Similarly, you can Google, suffer. What is suffer, under which ministry it is. So suffer, although pertains to air quality and research, so a trap can be given to you that it is functioning under Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, but it is functioning under, as you can see in the website also, Ministry of Earth Sciences. right? So these are little things. When you go through different types of questions from prelims and mains perspective, you identify that these are the things which you have to notice or note down in your notes, right? Because here are where the traps will be given to you. So for example, this is a type of prelims question which you can expect in SUFFER. It is an initiative of Ministry of Earth, Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Again, if you would have noticed this very clearly as to in which ministry it functions, you will be marking the statement as wrong, right? So likewise, you need to, see how things are in different topics. Then there is a news item, Doval spurs youth to take nation building path. National Security Advisor delivers first Swami Vivekanand Memorial Lecture at JNU. Now again, National Security Advisor, many of you won't be knowing who's he and what are its functions. Who does it directly report to, in which organizational setup he comes into picture, right? So again, you need to know that what is this post of National Security Advisor, what are its functions. Again, you can mention this in paper 2 or 3 depending wherever you're making notes on security, right? Because again, there can be a question on post from mains point of view as well as in prelims with respect to functions, right? So you can just mention National Security Advisor, again Google. If you're taking too much time in Googling, just stop it, right? Just mention National Security Advisor, read its content from the website. No need not make notes right now, right? So if you Google, you get a simple information. So he is the senior most official on the national, senior official, not senior most, senior official on the National Security Council of India and the chief advisor to the PM on national security policy and international affairs, right? So you get another topic called National Security Council of India. So there is a body called National Security Council of India in which he is one of the member, right? So like this, you just build the information which you are getting exposed to from the newspaper day by day, right? On page 3 again, there is not much of a news which will help you, but there is a news item which says ban on bird slaughter, right? Again, this is an ethical issue. This can be asked from mains point of view in paper 4, as well as it can be given to you in the interview board as a question, right? So that means you should know what is the policy of the government on bird slaughter, or is there any dedicated national policy of any exigency if this happens, right? What are the guidelines? So like that, again, you just mention the topic in your notebook in environment or ethical issues, and when things will be going on, if the classes are there on animal rights, etc., from ethical point of view, there you can just build the content on it, right? Again, if you think that you will be doing all these things on your own, that is not possible, and that is not also why you have taken admission in Vision. So trust Vision, trust how classes will be going on, because there will be monthly current affairs classes also, where every topic which is given in your magazine will be dealt from prelims point of view and mains point of view to expose you and make you understand how things should be understood from the very basic level, right? Then again on page 5, there is nothing, right? Now comes the editorial page, the most important page. So before starting with the editorial, again, I would first like to know from you how much time you usually take in editorial or newspaper reading in general, totality. And then I'll tell you how to go about it. So how much time do you take to read newspapers in total? And in general, on an average, how much time do you take to read editorial? So can I have the responses fast? So that I understand at what level you are on while it comes to newspaper reading and editorial. Quickly. Tejas is saying he takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes for the whole newspaper? 1 hour. Rahul is saying 1 hour. Total 1 hour. That includes so Sakshi is saying total 1 hour, including your editorial. Very less time, guys. So I have, okay, 3 hours total, Ramya is saying yes. So there are candidates who take sometimes more than 2 hours, 3 hours. Few take the whole, almost half of the day, that is 6 hours. I don't know what they're doing with the paper. 1.5 hours, Divyansh. So the optimal time which you should, so Vivek is saying he gives 30 minutes. 30 minutes is too less for the editorial. Abhinav is saying 1.5 hours. So optimum time which you should devote in newspaper reading should not exceed to more than 2 hours. Right? And why I'm saying so? Because, I know that newspaper reading will take time because you don't know many things, right? But there is a tendency of overdoing newspaper, that is Googling on your own everything which you don't know, right? So that should not be done. Secondly, you should go slow while reading newspapers, specifically editorial. And when I'm saying, so Shahishta is saying entire newspaper 4 hours. So when I'm saying you should go slow, what I mean again here is that you should know the purpose why you're reading newspaper, specifically editorial. So you're not reading editorial for prelims, right? Keep this thing in your mind. You're reading editorial for mains and interview. That means you need to build on things gradually. You need to understand things, why things are happening. You need to build an opinion or balanced judgment. And editorial, there is a question by Prakriti, ma'am, should we make our notes in loose sheets or in a note copy? It's up to you, Prakriti, whichever mode you would like to make your notes in. Usually when you make in hard copy or a notebook, you have limited, you get restricted to number of pages, right? If you don't want to get restricted, you can make it in loose sheets, and by the end of the classes or year, or by the time you will be writing your exams, prelims, mains and interview, you can, bind those loose sheets. So it all depends what is comfortable to you, right? So coming back to the whole idea, so I was saying that you should know that editorial specifically you're reading for the mains and the interview, and you need to know that there needs to be developed a balanced judgment. To arrive at a balanced judgment, you need to have so what are the constituents of balanced judgment? Objective rationale as to why of the issue, what of the issue, now what has background and developments, specifically recent developments, and the issues or the challenges. I hope this is clear to you. Is this, visible? If not, let me know through the responses. So objective or rational, that is why. Then what of the issue, that is background, developments, issues or challenges. Then you can know the how of the issue through procedures, steps taken, right? So this is basically how issue is resolved. How issues have been what are the, what is the background or what is the development, and why this is in news. So basically this is what the answer writing is in mains, and even in the interview how you have to build on things, right? So when you make notes like this, first of all, they become very precise, to the point, and your understanding also becomes to the point and precise, right? So balanced judgment is one when you know what, why, and how of the issue. How is how things will be resolved. This will come from what and why. Second thing to have in your balanced judgment, which will also help you in answer writing as well as securing good marks in mains, is whatever opinion you are coming up with on the issue, that you're basing with Supreme Court judgment or example or any law which is in place. So if, for example, if the speaker has done anything which was not in his jurisdiction, you can very well comment on that, right? Because you can give an example of constitutional provision. So that is why, to secure good marks and have balance of judgment in your answer or opinion, you should have an understanding of constitutional provisions, legal, provisions or the laws running on that topic, or Supreme Court judgment if it has ruled down any order or a way or rules to, function anything. So based on that, you can very well form an opinion. And that opinion will be considered as objective. So giving you a very layman example, what I mean to say here is, so this is a table, right? I can say that this is a chair also. Why? Because I can sit on it, right? But there can be a counter opinion. No, this cannot be considered as a chair because it does not have an armrest. Right? So like table, it does have 4 legs, but it does not have an armchair or a, resting, that thing, resting back. So it cannot be considered as chair. So when I say that it does not have an armrest, it does not have a backrest, hence it cannot be said as chair, that proves, or that my objective, opinion, that my opinion is more objective than a person who considers this as a chair because of the reason that one can sit on it, right? So you understand this logic, that there will be people who can comment on any issue like just for the heck of it. So to have a more objective opinion, you should base your logic on sound arguments. And those sound arguments can be examples, that can be, reports, observation, any data, any Supreme Court judgment, constitutional provision, which will lend more credibility to the opinion you are carrying. Don't get lured or swayed by whatever is being written in the newspaper, because newspapers are a medium of expression, right? Liberty given to the newspaper to write their opinion, right? So they need not be balanced, but you have to understand the issue from very objective manner and come up with the opinion based on these things or parameter. So if you have a data to prove that, this thing should not be done or this step should not have been taken, you can prove it with data, and then your opinion will become objective, right? Secondly, if any question given in mains or interview is saying, what is your opinion? So they are not judging you on what opinion you take. They will be judging you on what basis you take that opinion. So the basis needs to be objective. Keep yourself very clear on that, right? So let's come to the editorial. So Tanvi is asking, are newspapers headlines sufficient as notes even in the later stage, or gradually note making should be increased or more elaborated form? See, newspaper headings are not what you take down notes as. You take down notes from the topics covered in the headings or in the later, content. So don't be very mechanical about it, because if I give you an example, so this is an editorial, this is a heading imposing a compromise. This does not suggest any topic, right? So you need to know the topic and then accordingly put down in your note, right? So let's read this editorial, imposing a compromise. So when we start an editorial, there are two things which you need to look. One is definitely, the examples, any judgment or constitutional provision or data or a law to base an opinion. Secondly, if you're confused whether this editorial needs to be read or not, you should always give a closer look at the subheading, right? So the subheading also sometimes give you an inclination where this editorial will be going. So this says courts should stay within their domain while ruling on laws. That means this write-up is probably commenting on the court's jurisdiction or function as to putting a limit on their jurisdiction or judgment while commenting on the laws, right? So that means this editorial or this write-up is more on judiciary's role, the negative role which can be, portrayed by giving a judgment on the implementation of laws, right? So this editorial is read as the Supreme Court's interim order in the ongoing contestation between large sections of the farmers and the center over the new farm laws may be motivated by a laudable intention to break down the deadlock in negotiations, right? So that means in this 4-5 lines, this is to be understood that what intention was, Supreme Court carrying when it made its judgment or entertained this plea of resolving this deadlock. So the main intention was to resolve or break the deadlock because ample time had gone between, the government and the farmers organizations meeting and nothing was coming out. So probably with this intention, the, judiciary had intervened and tried to bring a break the deadlock in the negotiation. However, it is difficult to shake off the impression that the court is seeking to impose a compromise on the farmers' union. One portion of the order stays the 3 laws, seeks to maintain the minimum support price as before, and prevents possible dispossession of farmers of their land under the new laws. The stated reason is that the stay would assuage the hurt feelings of the farmers and encourage them to go to the negotiating table. So it says that, this is probably done to, possibly to not hurt the farmers' feeling, as well as, they will be encouraged to go to the negotiating table and remove from the, border areas. However, it is somewhat disconcerting that the stay of legislation is effected solely as an instrument to facilitate the court's arrangement rather than on the basis of any identified legal or constitutional infirmity in the law. So it says, but this is perceived as one of the steps to use court as an instrument of, as an instrument rather than it does not have any basis of any constitutional infirmity. What it means to say is that majorly the role of the court is to see any constitutional flaw in the laws or the policies, implementation of the government or their rules. They really cannot comment on how things should happen or what laws should be made. It can only point out to the constitutional infirmity. So if they did not have if the farm laws do not have the constitutional infirmity, how the court can use its jurisdiction to put a stay, right? The order forming a 4-member committee may indeed help relieve the current tension and allay the government's fears that the Republic Day celebrations may be disrupted, but it is not clear if it would help the reaching of an amicable settlement, as the Samyukt Kisan Morcha, the umbrella body spearheading the protest, has refused to appear before the panel. The court's approach raises the question whether it should traverse beyond its adjudicative role and pass judicial orders of significant import on the basis of sanguine hope and mediational zeal. So this is very important and critical to understand the court's role in this particular issue. So this is one of the critique or question on the intention of the judiciary's role over these farm laws, because it says that it is very unclear whether the court has overreached or misused its role of adjudication to mediation, right? Because court's role is to adjudicate the infirmities and not mediate, right? So this is what is to be understood in this very issue. And then it says the court did make its position amply clear during the hearing. Now this is objective. Why objective? Because what the Chief Justice or the court is saying as to why they have come up with this judgment or order is what will make your judgment as objective. So S.A. Bobde, Chief Justice of India, he said, faulting the center for its failure to break the deadlock arising out of weeks long protests by thousands of farmers in the vicinity of Delhi demanding nothing short of an outright repeal of the laws. It is only in the wake of government's perceived failure that the court has chosen to intervene, but it's unfortunate that it is not in the form of adjudicating key questions such as constitutionality of the laws, but by handing over the role of thrashing out the issues involved to a 4-member panel. It is not clear how the 4 members will be selected or chosen, and there is already some well-founded criticism that some of them have already voiced their support for the farm laws in question. The court wants the panel to give its recommendation on hearing the views of all stakeholders. Here the exercise could turn tricky. How will the court deal with the possible recommendation that the laws be amended? It would be strange and even questionable if the court directed Parliament to bring the law in line with the committee's view. While a negotiated settlement is always preferable, it is equally important that judicial power is not seen as being misused to dilute the import of the protest or delegitimize farmers' union, that they stay away from the proceedings of the panel or interfere with the powers of Parliament to legislate. Right? So what do we understand by this editorial are only 2-3 words or key aspect in that issue. And first of all, we need to understand that where will this topic will be added? Paper 2, right? Paper 2, which topic? Let's see. So there is a topic called separation of powers between various organs, dispute redressal mechanism and institution. There is a topic called structure, organization and functioning of the executive and the judiciary and their role in polity. There is a topic called government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. So this farm law can come here because it is one of the government policies or intervention and there is an issue arising out of its implementation. It can also come in the structure, organization and functioning of executive and judiciary. It can also come in the separation of powers between various organs, dispute redressal mechanism and institutions. So it all depends into which topic you want to put this debate. What is the debate? Supreme Court jurisdiction in legislative matter. Sometimes it is called as judicial activism. Sometimes it is called as judicial overreach. Whether judiciary has a power to mediate and resolve legislative issues is a matter of debate, right? That is what you need to know. And how will you make your opinion objective? When you understand the role of judiciary, role of legislature secretary and role of executive, right? So that means when you go through these 2 paragraphs, 3-4 paragraphs, you only come to writing down 2-3 lines. That is role of judiciary in legislative matters, right? So that means whenever topic will be given in your mains or a question will be given in your mains, it will be coming from this topic or in an interview, right? Similarly, if you read the next, article, strain ties. Here again, there are two bodies which are very, very important. One being, the Lieutenant Governor, role of Lieutenant Governor, Chief Minister, and, the debate on the appointment of State Election Commissioner, right? So that means again, you can cover this topic in the constitutional post powers and responsibilities of Lieutenant Governor, its synergy or dynamics with Chief Minister. So you need to know the example. So you can use this example of Kerala, Puducherry, right, where the relations of Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Minister have not been amicable and there were issues in it. So what power and role does Lieutenant Governor have in UT and the Chief Minister's role, right? So that is how, you will be making use of examples. So that means you need to know that this is more of a content for an example rather than a topic, right? So you need to prepare. Again, what you can do is in paper 2, you can write role of Lieutenant Governor, CM in UT, powers and functions. That's it. So when you will be revising for prelims point of view, you will be specifically dealing with the role and constitutional provisions, and when for specifically doing for mains perspective or interview, you have the whole topic. So Shivam is saying how much time should we spend on editorial? Actually, it all depends on how the editorial is. What content does it have? Usually you should not take more than 1 hour or 1.5 hours, because the later content or the here and there content of the news item should not take more than half an hour, right? Then there is an editorial on reclaiming SARC from the ashes of 2020. Again, the title says SARC, and the underlying, understanding of the subheading is, despite the despondency, the rationale for its existence is intact, and India can use it as a stage for its global mission. This in itself is a topic or a question, the relevance of SARC for India, right? Or South Asian dynamics, or world diplomacy or global diplomacy. That means again what you can do is either you do it in the class, because all these organizations or bodies will be done. There you can do the relevance of it, right? Just note down in paper 2 under IR topic, bodies, etc., the relevance of SARC. From prelims point of view, there can be different questions as to who all are members of SARC, right? There can be a question, who among the following is not a member of SARC, right? So like that, you need to know the map of South Asian nations, and also the water bodies associated with it, right? So like that, you get questions from these topics from different angles in both mains, prelims and interview, right? So again, the things which I have highlighted should be, read thoroughly. So what you need to know through these, editorials is, I will be doing this editorial also, but what I want to highlight is that again the, sub-headings. So for example, pandemic caused challenges. So here when you write answers also, for mains, and when you write essays, when you give headings in the answer or content, it automatically lets the examiner know or the reader know that this is what the topic or the content will be written. Or has been written upon, right? So pandemic caused challenges are also one of the reasons why SARC as a body should be, revived, right? Because this is South Asian approach, or its response to COVID is different from the rest of the world or European nations. So if SARC as a body is not fully organized or developed or not fully functioning, then the response to these pandemics can, we will never be able to understand and resolve the problems of this pandemic, right? So this is what, again, by just simply reading the subheading, the reader can get the idea on, right? Then a time for regional initiatives. Again, there is an example given. So there are, regional agreements like US, Mexico, Canada agreement. There is Mercosur for European nations. Then there is, EU. Then there is AFCA, African Continental Free Trade Area. There is GCC. There is, RCEP, right? But for India, or India being a regional, part of regional grouping, it has only SAFTA, right? So that is again lending more importance to SARC as a regional grouping, of which India is a very important player, right? So like that, by simply reading the heading or simplifying content, you can better understand the content. What happens usually when you're making a note specifically for note making, you tend to, write down everything what is given in the content. Refrain from this habit. First read the content, read the whole editorial, go very slow, understand what the topic is telling you. This is also called comprehension, because this is what is required out of you when you will be becoming a bureaucrat. There will be loads of files in front of you, but when it comes to explaining the reasons to the CM, etc., minister, you need to simplify those files or understanding or report. That is why there is a purpose, behind every stage of this exam, right? When you make use of newspaper from this idea that you need to simplify things, you will be, forcing yourself to simplify to the highest level. So don't have this habit of writing everything what you read. Understand on your own, simplify things, and then, you can write down very good answers, right? Then there is a subheading called China's Quest. So in this, here again, the dynamics of China is important. So in dealing with the challenge from the China too, both at India's borders and in its neighborhood, a unified South Asian platform remains India's most potent countermeasure. Again, to counter China, you need to have, a South Asian platform where India is having more bargaining power, or more important position. So that is how, you can bring out the relevance of SARC from India's point of view, specifically to counter China, to counter pandemics, to have a more regional, space and importance. And otherwise, when you will be doing in class, this topic will be dealt, more comprehensively. So again, what you can do is, you can write down, even if you want to make notes out of this, you just want, what you need to do is, you just write down SARC, India's, relevance, and just write down point, countermeasure to China, pandemic. Because once you've understood the whole topic, you will just write keywords, and this is what will help you in revision also. You need not write, lines after lines for the answer. If you've understood the main issue, you can just write down keywords to help you revise in mains as well as in the interview and as well as in prelims. And moreover, understand this thing that keywords play an important role in this whole UPSC examination, right? If you know the keywords or key ideas, you can dwell upon the content later on also, right? So similarly, this topic SARC will come here either in neighborhood relations or bilateral, regional and global groupings more precisely, right? Important international institutions, agencies and fora, their structure and mandate. So you need to have always in front of you syllabus so that you understand where this topic will lie. That is why if you're making notes in the notebook, the index can be your syllabus. If you're making in loose sheets, syllabus should be in front of you so that you put that very topic under the most suitable heading, right? Then you have this vaccine trial editorial. Here what is very, very important is not to go into the debate whether the recent vaccine trial was just or not, or ethical or not. What is important again to have an informed understanding is the Supreme Court order on how trials should be done. So here in this editorial, there is mention of 2013 Supreme Court order on how, the clinical trials should be done. So it says that following the October 2013 Supreme Court order, the Indian regulator had in 2019 made mandatory an audio video recording of the informed consent process of each vulnerable individual participant before conducting clinical trial. That means a mandatory thing should be that there should be an audio video, recording of the informed consent process. That means whoever is being used for the trial, he should know, we should have a consent, we should have a proof, he should know the after effects of it, right? He should know the whole dynamics, and this is what is given in the Supreme Court order, right? And then there are justifications given that mostly, and why this is needed, because in a country like India, mostly population is illiterate, that can be lured with money, right? Again, you can just go through this editorial and pick very fine nuances. Again, you need not make notes of it, but what you can do is that you can read more on the Supreme Court order of how clinical trials should happen, or if there are rules of how clinical trials should happen in India, or any body whose recommendation worldwide is accepted by most of the countries, you should make a note of it, or just note down that body or organization. Then there is, an open page, there is mention of Arab quarters reconciliation with Qatar could lead to new regional alignments. There is a mention of town called Alula. So again, when it comes to UPSC examination, in prelims you get questions on in pair like question format, that Alula is situated in a country called named Qatar, right? So you might get confused. So you should know important places in news. You can make notes of that, right? So Alula, you can just mention in IR, Alula, Saudi Arabia, right? Regional agreement, that is it. When it comes to, again, going through this whole editorial, first approach should be identifying the keywords, right? So again, the first keyword is here. So many of you don't know what is GCC when they will be reading the newspaper. So again, that does not mean you will be So first you will be making note of that there is a keyword called GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, right? Then there is mention of Arab Quartet. Then there is, mention of Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood. Then there is mention of Arab Spring. So you have GCC here, you have Arab Quartet here, you have Muslim Brotherhood here, you have, Arab Spring there, right? You have then here again, relations with of Quarter and Brotherhood specifically. So when it comes to, making notes of IR specifically or any international relation, you should make notes from different perspective, right? So there are certain significance of the relations with different countries or organizations. One is geographical significance. One is economical significance. One is strategic significance. Then security significance. So what importance does this Arab Quartet have or has in Middle East region? What significance this Arab Quartet or Middle East region has for India and South Asia? What significance this Arab Quartet or Middle East region has for all over the world from economy or resources point of view, geography point of view, strategic point of view, diplomatic point of view, right? So like this, the questions usually come in mains, right? So when you're making notes again of these keywords will help you in prelims and mains. How? GCC you will be preparing for prelims from a different perspective as to which all members are there in GCC, right? You should know what is this grouping of Arab Quartet, right? Specifically for mains, right? Then you should know what is the genesis of Muslim Brotherhood, because it played a key role in having a progressive democracy in Egypt specifically and Tunisia, right? And what is this Arab Spring all about? So again, till the time you don't know what is Arab Spring, you don't know about GCC, reading and understanding editorials will be difficult, right? So that means if you're unable to understand, try to note down these keywords and later on, go through them when your IR classes will be done. Or when you will be having your monthly current affairs revision classes, there the whole background will be given to you for you to understand the relations better. If that is also not sufficient, I will be telling you how to make use of Vision IAS resources to understand international relations in the most comprehensive way. So being a subject like international relations it's very dynamic, as also you need to know the background of how relations have been. So it's very difficult for a few to keep a track of these relations. So if you're unable to understand, leave it. Don't go ahead. Just try to make notes or identify the keywords and take down in the topic of Middle East region and India, right? So that is how the questions come. So in 2016, there was this question asked by UPSC, which of the following is not a member? So again, when you see questions on regular basis, you will be better able to understand the editorial as well as be able to make notes from UPSC point of view. There can be a question on these lines also from current perspective, that the first statement is telling you its objective is to safeguard the interest and ensure the progress and well-being of Muslims of the Gulf. Second statement says recently Qatar has been ousted from the group over the allegation of backing terrorism, right? So on these lines, question can be given to you in the test series, and there has already been question asked on GCC by UPSC, right? When you're doing international relations, specifically this area, you should always keep a map or an atlas with you. Again, questions in prelims in geography specifically comes from these specific areas, to which all countries borders Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, Caspian Sea, right? And which country of the following is landlocked, right? So like that you can expect questions in prelims specifically from this region, because this region is very, very important in international relations. Then page 8, not too much of news for having an analysis, but you get certain ideas for prelims and you get topics for mains. One being Contempt Act, section 2C1, for which it was in news, right? So again, you mention in judiciary Contempt of Court Act 1971. Again, when the class of polity will be going on judiciary topic, you will be reading on this, Contempt of Court Act 1971, right? Similarly, when you will be doing economy or probably monthly current affairs class, there you can get a topic on code of wages. Again, code of wages 2019 was in news, right? So again, the kind of question you can expect on code on wages can be like this, where 2 or 3 statements are given to you. So when you will be doing code on wages, again probably you cannot make notes of it. So understand that very topic in the class, and whatever content will be given in the magazine or probably in the class, you can build upon the content later on. Again, the whole idea is that you need not make notes on everything, but you note down the topics which you come across in the newspaper to later build on content, right? However, you should always have, the previous year papers and syllabus in front of you to understand how these topics will be used or can be used. Page 10, again, nothing was there. There's this mention of LSE. So for those who don't know anything on how things are happening, LSE is line of actual control. So at least you should know and just Google that it is a line of, border line between India and China. It should not be confused with LOC. Again, the kind of basic understanding which you can develop, though in the class or before that what is the difference between LOC and LAC? What is this whole mechanism of LAC and LOC? So that you can develop, and there have been questions even asked by the interview board on these lines, very basic questions. So there you just cannot act dumb that you don't know more than that it is a line of boundary between India and China, right? You should know how things work in these, what are the key differences of LOC and LAC. So like that, you should have a curiosity to know things from a very conceptual mind or point of view. Because again, this is one quality which has been laid down by UPSC, that it should raise a curiosity. The topics or the issues should raise curiosity in the mind of a well-educated youth, right? World, again, page 13, it has India and Nepal. So you should know Kala Pani territorial dispute is between India and Nepal. Again, there can be a question in prelims. Kala Pani territorial dispute relates to India, and then there will be options given: Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, right? So you should know Kala Pani territorial dispute is between India and Nepal. Again, when you will be doing IR, any country's relations with India will be again based on these lines: geography, security, strategic and diplomatic importance, economy. So there you will always keep in mind that Kala Pani is one of the most key territorial dispute between India and Nepal. Then when it comes to economy news, again, you are not aware of key concepts of economy, so it will be difficult for you to understand the news item. But nonetheless, like we have done before, you will be highlighting or making notes on the key ideas or the concepts which you hear often. So for example, here inflation is a very important topic. So you should not take down note on that inflation has slowed down to 4.59% as food prices ease. What you should first try to understand is these keywords which are given in the newspaper. That is National Statistical Office. Again, you can Google what are its function, what statistics it comes out with. Right? This is again a question which can be asked in prelims, that releases which of the following indexes or data. Then you have consumer price inflation, CPI. You have IIP, India's Index of Industrial Production. What is it? Again, if that is taking too much of time, you can restrict yourself, just mention IIP. Again, there have been questions on Index of Industrial Production in prelims. Then you come to understand that there is a concept called core inflation. So within inflation, you get these keywords: National Statistical Office, you have CPI, you have Index of Industrial Production, you have core inflation. So by the time, it's been 6 months, or when your classes will be over in 8 months, 6 months, whatever time it will be, you will never be having dearth of topics, right? You will be having a year-round compilation of key ideas or topics which, have been in news often, right? So any idea which, probably the online websites miss, you will be having full confidence that you have done your part and you have, understood the whole topic from basic to the most recent development. That is how, newspapers are to be used, from developing a basic understanding to link it with how things are happening till date, right? Similarly, you have a topic called cybersecurity. So you need not make notes on the whole issue, but you just write down cybersecurity. Although cybersecurity is, I think, explicitly given in your UPSC main syllabus also, right? In sports news, you can skip the sports news pages. At the max, what you can do is whenever in an editorial any sports issue comes, so there are certain sports issues which can be asked in, mains or probably interview. For example, legalizing betting. For example, technology used in, cricket, right? So use of drugs, right? Why is cricket more favored than football or hockey? This can be given in an essay form, or probably, sports can be dealt in essay form also. So again, when you are reading editorials, then only you can make notes. Otherwise, you can skip reading sports news unless and until sports is a hobby which you are trying to put down in the, detailed application form for the interview, right? If you have sports as a hobby, which you're going to tell to the UPSC board, interview board, then it's fine. Otherwise, you can skip reading sports news. Sometimes in the editorial, you have these data points, right? So if it is a UN or any credible organization, then only note it down. Otherwise, again, you can skip it. Now coming to the most important part, how to make use of Vision IAS monthly current affairs or daily current affairs. So as I said that you might be feeling that from today, let's assume that you have just started from today reading newspaper. But you think that probably you have missed out on few months newspaper, right? So you don't know how India US relations have been, or probably India and Middle East relations have been, or what is this farm law about, right? What is this demonetization? So you have in your resources mains 365 and PT 365. Just go there and just see that there are different, subjects which are covered. So for example, you go to polity, right? So you have different issues within the broad topics. You can also make use of, the index given in your mains 365 books of different subject. So they have divided center-state relations, and then there are issues within center-state relations. Again, issues related to constitutional provisions. You have Aadhaar, you have Citizen Amendment Bill, Citizenship Amendment Bill, you have National Security Act, right? With respect to functioning of parliament or state legislature, again an important topic in your syllabus, you have breach of privilege, you have cabinet committees. So like that, this will help you to understand how topics are to be put in different aspects of syllabus, right? So if let's say if you want to revise the Citizenship Amendment Act, that what it was all about, you can go through this content of 1 page or 1.5 page and you can just get an idea of it, right? Similarly, if you're doing IR, because it is dynamic, there you can have a background information of how things have developed in the whole year. You can make use of this. So again, West Asia, Middle East, you can do the India West Asia topic and just be confident about it. Okay, I know the basic information or background of it. So like that, if you are getting stuck anywhere in the newspaper, you keep your laptop on, again make use of these documents and quickly have a look at the topic, because usually the beauty of these resources is that it's very concise. So it's maximum 2 page or 1.5 page, and quickly you can revise and understand the broader aspects of the issue, right? Likewise, you have security. So you have cyber security. You can just revise in cyber security what was the recent development, right? So like that you can make use of these documents. Then you have essay. So as I said, in the newspaper, it's basically the editorials which will help you in essay, because first of all it will help you on how to write an essay. So when you read editorials, you get an idea as to the use of headings is important. So when you read the headings and subheadings, you get the idea that what should be the flow of the content, right? Usually the last paragraph of the editorial is the solution or the basic essence. So similarly in essay also, the last paragraph should suggest the vision or the teachings or the learnings of the whole thing, how things should be, right? So when you read editorial, you get the flow of how to write. You get to know the use of anecdotes or short stories, because these are the things through which you open your essay or end your essay. You also sometimes in editorial or the newspaper you get quotations, you get statistics which help you in writing good essays, right? So this is how you write the make use of newspaper for different kinds of exams in UPSC preparation. So the most important takeaways from today's class is that you have to understand the syllabus, right? Now, understanding the syllabus, you can make use of Vision IAS resources like Mains 365 particularly, right? Second thing, you should have always a regular look at the new, previous papers. So if someone is asking me, I would suggest that along with the syllabus, at least 15 minutes daily or half an hour at the max, you see papers every day of prelims and mains. So that will help you to open up for this examination as to in which direction you need to go. Third thing is, one paper every day for at least maximum 2 hours you should devote, because newspaper, as I highlighted, will help you in UPSC preparation like anything, right? It will help you in writing good answers for ethics, essay, in all GS subjects. It will help you to comprehend things faster, the requirement to write answers, right, to say things with confidence and balance of judgment, right? So that will help you in through newspaper reading. Then fourth thing is, and I'm focusing more on the newspaper, focus more on the issues in the newspaper. As I have given you example, note down the topics within every syllabus part so that you understand that what are the issues going around. Never keep the paper pending, because if this becomes your habit, you will never be able to, realize this goal faster, right? So keep things in mind that there should be a disciplined way of reading newspaper every day. There is an underlying understanding that for this exam, if you need to clear, you should have the habit of reading and understanding things. More than reading, you should understand what you read rather than simply reading, right? Any questions if you have? So, okay. Mayank is saying, is it necessary to watch RSTV big picture in particular? Not right now. See, there are candidates who get selected even despite of not watching RSTV. So if you know the issue from all the perspectives through newspaper reading or through Vision IAS resources, not necessarily you have to go through RSTV debates. Understand the requirement that you have only 2 pages to write in mains, few minutes to speak in the interview. At the max, you need to know only 250 words on that very topic for to write as well as to say. So you will have more content rather than, dearth of content. So for this exam, you need to clear, you should know how to make wise use of content rather than, doing the same content from different places, right? So Pranjali is saying I'm not able to form a habit of newspaper reading, though when I start reading I find it interesting. Also I'm making notes pointer in Excel works. Important news are covered almost equally in every good newspaper, but Indian Express opinions vary. So should we look into different articles on one topic to see different stands of one issue? That is what Smriti is saying. Ideally, right now, one newspaper coverage is also very difficult. In the later stage, when you've done different subjects at a considerable length, you have broader understanding, then only you go for, newspaper reading of, different editorials on different topics. Right now, you need not do that, right? When the stage will come when you are appearing for the interview, probably then you can do that. But even if you're doing one newspaper along with content from Vision IAS classes, that is sufficient. Yes, Pranjali is saying I'm not able to form a habit of newspaper reading. See, this is very personal. You should keep this thing in your mind that you need to clear this exam, and always remind yourself that newspaper reading is very, very important, because newspaper is one thing which will give you a whole variety of topics which a book cannot, right? So you get exposed to different issues or topics which you've never come across. So please try to always, train your mind that newspaper is very, very important. So Lakshya says, ma'am, do we need to refer to previous year papers of just last year or other past years as well? Definitely other past years. At least 5 years you should know. Otherwise 10-year previous year papers is what I would recommend. For prelims, for mains, 5 years is fine, right? Should we go word to word understanding while reading an editorial, and should we note down the vocab words or not? Vocabulary words are not necessary to be noted down. If you don't know the meaning of any word, you can just Google it for better understanding. No, you should not note down everything, but yes, you should focus on understanding the whole thing, right? The whole idea in the paragraph. So if you check out meaning of each and every word, that will be very difficult. Like the way I gave you an example of editorial reading, paragraph wise, pick the essence of it and develop an understanding. Ritambra says, ma'am, should we use the subheadings in the editorial in essays? Yes. You should have the habit of using subheadings from the newspaper, and likewise, you should use it in your essay writing also. Ma'am, how and where to use literary reviews? Literary reviews are not that important for UPSC, is it? No. So you might skip literary reviews from the newspaper section, right? So that is not that important. Literary reviews are not important. Shashank says cost-benefit analysis of Hindu and Indian Express. It's a very difficult question. Reason being, it all depends how you are comfortable with the style of writing Hindu and Indian Express use. So coming to cost-benefit analysis, out of experience I'm saying, yes, definitely. Direct questions, that to one or two, directly come from the Hindu. But the problem with the Hindu is that it sometimes uses very difficult language in the editorials, which is very difficult for many of the aspirants to comprehend. So if you're fine with, giving away one or two questions, that two very random questions which you can't predict, and probably even if while reading the Hindu, you might skip reading those things, right? Then you should go for Indian Express. As I said, it all depends on person to person. If you're comfortable in the Hindu, you go for it. If you're not, even Indian Express won't disappoint you. The idea is that you are noting the most important issues and understanding from the reading. If you're taking too much of time from the Hindu, you will be wasting your time. So go for what you are comfortable in. Sakshi says, ma'am, what about Yojana, etc. magazine? See, Sakshi and all those who think that they should do everything what it takes, you really can't do everything, right? So you should focus more on, as I said, building understanding rather than, exploring different, uh, areas and content. You do content from one source, two source at the max, not beyond that. If I am saying that Yojana gives you specific issue coverage, so for example, 1 month there will be whole topic coverage of education, but that is also not in totality sufficient. It might miss out on something, right? So do education or health from the newspaper or the content which you will be provided on, and then gradually build it. It's not as if the ones who do Yojana and Kurukshetra only they clear it. Idea is again understand. I'm writing it for the, writing for everyone so that this is there in their mind forever, which I have not told you specifically. For mains, for 10 marker, you have 50 words. For 15 marker, you have 250 words. There were years when questions have been asked for 12.5 marker also. So at the max, in mains, in GS, you need to write 250 words on an issue, right? For 250 words, you can only write 2 pages. For you to write 2 pages, there is a question also here, there are margins also here in answer booklet of UPSC. So you technically have 1.5 page to write, because 1 or 2 lines you write in introduction, 1 or 2 lines you write in conclusion. So the main body or the answer is only 1 page technically. So for a 1 page, you will read the Hindu, you will read the Kurukshetra, you will read the newspaper, you will read, you will also go through RSTV debates. You will also go through Vision IAS content. You will also read textbook. You will also read government rules or website. That's not technically possible. So again, the idea is understand the requirement of this exam. You need to compile and understand the whole issue in a most broadest way and come up with dimensions and different, areas it deals with, right? So for that, you need to understand from a different perspective and not running for sources. Again, understand this thing. Very, very important. The ones who clear, they know what is the requirement of this exam, right? Many clear with coaching, many clear without coaching, right? So it all depends on the person, how one is understanding the exam. Secondly, there is no dearth of content in this exam. What makes one person clear this exam from the other is the understanding one develops, out of what one is reading. So you all are reading newspaper, you all are reading the same textbooks, let's say Lakshmikant, etc. But you all do not clear, right? What is the difference between one clearing and the other one is not clearing is understanding the relevance of that very topic and, writing it down in a very basic language. That is also very, very important. So try when you're reading any content, try to explain yourself in, let's say 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or try to write the whole thing in 1 page of whatever you have understood through keywords. Right? That will help you to build an understanding on that very topic, right? Any other question? And during note making, do we have to take down entire highlighted content or any other way as the former way becomes bulky? No, you need not take down the entire highlighted content. The highlighted content which I had shown you was not meant to be noted down, right? It was only meant that your eyes should have gone there, or probably that should have caught your eye when you were reading it, because that gave you certain kind of understanding to that very topic, right? So I think that is all for today. I know that newspaper reading will be difficult for you after this class also, for few. Reason being, the kind of understanding which I have given it to you, that is coming out of experience, right? But I do know that few of the problems you usually face when you are reading newspaper. So cut down on note making too much. Cut down on sitting for hours on newspaper. Focus more on topic coverage along with the classes, because this will take time. If let 1 month go, 2 months go, 3 months go, you will be able to better understand the newspaper. Reason being, you would have got the idea through the classroom tests and etc. and lectures how questions come and how the content needs to be used. So because that is important, don't be in a hurry or rush to do everything on your own, right? So all the best, guys. So there is only last question which I am taking. Are the various Hindu analysis on YouTube channels important? I have answered that question, Shinoy. Newspaper is inevitable. You see those analysis or not, that is not relevant. If you've understood the article, fine. Even if you've not understood, you need not go to the analysis from different website. Reason being, you don't know the issue. Once you know the issue, the understanding of the analysis won't be a difficult thing, right? So all the best, guys.